Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another Saturday. We get to come together and chat about our stories and how we're doing and how things are going. This is Masterpiece, a place that we've carved out as immigrants and as people of color and people on their journey together in life to learn from each other, to empower each other through some of the expertise that we bring to the table, to help each other grow and become. That is all that we are here to do. And I will be your host, Tina Grace. And I am excited that this whole month we have dedicated it to the immigrant story, because we have stories. And I don't know about you, like, there's no way you can say you don't have a story. And today is one of those times that you want to take some 1 minute, 2 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever, and ping someone and tell someone, text someone, tell them today on Masterpiece, you have to be part of it because you have a story. And there is another storyteller in the house who is going to help us talk about the immigrant story. What is it like? What does that encompass? And what are some of the things that we can learn? And we are still learning, right? So tell someone we are live, just share the link and make sure that someone else can join us today on this immigrant story conversation. But we are so blessed today to have a very dear friend, a very amazing woman that actually, if you haven't heard from about her, then let me take some time to introduce you to her. But she's not new to us here in Masterpiece. She actually sits on our board as an advisory member, and she's been instrumental in a lot of the things that you've seen being done here. Although she may not know it, we learned a lot from her show, To My Younger Self. Okay. And she is one person that does the storytelling very naturally. So today you're going to hear from her, her journey, the things that she's done, and even just being here in America, how she has learned and what she's learning so far. That would help you and I. If you're on here, you also want to share your story, okay? So you can also drop us your story, or you can email it to us, or you can send us a text. But if you do that, we have a book from our own, Maji Maj. It's called The Shimmigrant, okay? That we are giving away. This is our book of the month. We are reading it. And guess what? We are having Maji on, Masterpiece next week. So don't miss that one too, okay? But this is going to be a book that you can receive if you will share your story with us, because this is a book of a story about someone else that you want to know and you want to also understand. And it's such an interesting book. It helps you to connect because we are humans together. Anyway, let me get off my soapbox. Zoe just came out with a book, or they're coming out with a book, okay? And that book is something that I want you to start thinking about pre-ordering. I don't have the link here. I voted different times for different covers. So it'll take a little bit of time to, release it. But once it's out, it's called Letters of Hope to My Younger Self. We all have to go for it. And if you keep watching this space, maybe we can get one or two that we can give away. All right. So let's welcome Zoe to join us and let's get this conversation started. Oh my goodness.
Let's go.
Wow.
Listen, wow. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. Girl, one, I am so proud of you. You have taken like one tiny idea and run with it. Every time I see your background, your everything is so on point. You're
I'm
doing
learning from you. I mean, how
you're
can you
doing
not do well when you have
you're
some,
doing such
um,
an amazing job. And the other thing I wanted to touch on real quick, yes, Gloria, woo-hoo, yes, I see you. Listen, so we actually have a link that we're going to be putting in the chat. Section very soon for letters of hope to my younger self.
mm,
Funny enough, this book has a lot of immigrant stories in it. There's a
right.
lot of people who've migrated from Africa, most, specifically Ghana,
Mhm.
gone on to other countries, and some of the stories in there are immigrant stories. So you definitely don't want to miss it. We're going to be releasing the link today, so it's not really taking much
Whoa.
time at all. Listen, when you're working with someone like Abakita Under, and of course Margie Marge, you just mentioned, you kind of just have to be on your toes. So you don't want to miss it. This book is just a legacy project. We're very proud of it. There's so many important stories in there that would inspire you as an immigrant, and you do not want to miss it. So definitely be an early bird and catch it, and jump on it and go kind of, um, you know, put in your order. Yeah.
Okay, so Zoe, what we do, what can we do? Like we do something to say that if you stay to the end of this, conversation, you're going to get a free copy.
Because it's a pre-order, we're not
Yeah.
sure we can do free copies yet because it's
Okay.
order. So we haven't launched the book yet. This
Okay.
is just a rollout where we're kind of just pre asking people to pre-order. So we can't say you get a free copy yet because we don't know how long it's going to take to get to you yet
Yeah. Yes.
yet. But certainly, I'll plug this in here. Once we're all rolled out and we're launched, we're definitely coming back to Masterpiece for sure, Albert and I. And
Absolutely.
then you're going to walk us through it, and maybe then we can do something like that. But so, yes, definitely stay to the end though, because I still have incredible immigrant stories to share, and you don't want to miss them.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So there you go, Masterpiece audience. You are in for amazing stories. But Zoe, I think, like we said, you are the person who tells the stories on Tuesday mornings. You have a greeting in every language that you share. And I can only do the bonjour and then the, hola in Spanish.
Mhm.
So I think you should give us a bit intro about Zoe Baraka.
Oh God. Well, an intro to Zoe Baraka. Zoe, yes, is I'm from a long line of women griots. A griot is
Mm.
someone who stands in the king's court and kind of records history as it's passing by and
Mm.
sings it to people. So griots are from the past. We're in the present. We're projecting into the future. That's what a griot really is. We're the keepers of stories. My
Oh,
mother was an incredible storyteller. I trained as a filmmaker, as a journalist. I worked as a journalist for maybe a month. My editor said to me, "You are a terrible print journalist." My communications lecturer pointed me to filmmaking because apparently I have a flair with words and I am wearing it well now. I didn't used to like to say that. I
yeah.
went to film school and then started working in film for a while. A lot of things happened in between. I
Mm.
stopped working in film for a few years. My mother passed away, and a lot of things happened in between. And now we have To My Younger Self, really an ode to the original griot who gave birth to me, because she was, at least in my historical, timeline, she was the immediate storyteller before I took over, so to speak.
Oh,
Um, so just an ode to her in her passing, in my grieving, To My younger self kind of took over. So I don't tell stories anymore, but I definitely listen to stories from all around the world, from Africans all around the world. And so that's who really Zoe is. I'm just a griot, someone who just likes to document African personal stories. Yeah.
amazing, amazing. And Zoe, you have been around a while, for a minute, and you've seen some of the things, you've experienced a few things, and you were talking about even some of the projects that you've worked on immigrant stories. So
Yeah.
when you talk about immigrant story, what is that looking like? Like, is it possible that we all have an immigrant story?
Here's the thing. I think the moment you move from one space that you're used to
Mm,
and go into another space, you're an immigrant automatically. And I can put it this way. As a young person, well, as a child, really, I was maybe 6 or even 5 when I moved from the back desert, beautiful land of Boko Central and went to Accra, Ghana. It
uh,
was in the same country, but I was an immigrant.
right.
The reason being that suddenly you're plunged into a different culture, even though it's the same country. You don't know a lot of stuff that's going on. You don't speak the language very well. You're not used to the foods, even though it's the same country. So immigration starts within ourselves, and then now amplify that by maybe 10. That's you moving from your country because it's easier to assimilate in your country. I mean, in
Mm,
about 6 months, if you found me in school, you wouldn't know that I was, from the northern parts of Ghana. I could speak the language fairly well, the
mm,
Ashanti, the Ga not too well, but I could get by. And when people spoke, I could hear it,
mm,
and things like that. But now you're moving from that setting to an entirely different setting.
okay.
Like, let's say you're moving from Ghana to America, Ghana to Canada, Ghana to France. For those of us who moved to America, we got a little lucky because at least we could get by with the language. My brother moved to Russia. Um,
Oh,
he had to take a year and a half or so to actually learn the language.
yeah.
So immigration is such a nuanced conversation. There is
Mm,
not one person who can say they do not have an immigrant story. It's
mm,
impossible.
mm,
Even if you lived in, let's say, I'm trying to find a common space in, let's say, Ghana. Even if you lived in Accra and you moved from La to Nungwa, you're immediately an immigrant.
mhm,
So immigration is very nuanced, but now we're talking about it on a bigger global scale that is moving from one country to another. And so
right,
this is our story. Or somebody else moving from America to Ghana, they're an immigrant. We never really think about the reverse, but
right.
there's people like that. We have a Reverend Father Campbell, who was part of our book project, and he's an immigrant in Ghana, and he's been in Ghana for 50 years and over.
Wow.
You know what I mean? He
Uh,
is an immigrant because he now had to move from Ireland and settle in Ghana when he was young, and how to learn the language, learn how to eat the foods. And this is a Caucasian, proper Irish man who is now
okay.
living amidst Africans and trying to teach them about God and the love of God and things like that. That's an immigrant story. So
That's
for
amazing.
me, there is no one on earth who can literally say they do not have an immigrant story. It's impossible.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow. So we all have a story.
All of us have a story.
But I find that some people find it easier to share their story than others.
Mm.
So as a storyteller, what are some of the things that makes that, easier for one group of people to just share their story, be forthcoming, tell their struggles? Is it because they want others to learn more about it? Or is it because they find it easier to speak up, or what is it? Because I struggle sometimes to figure out why is it that we cannot be forthcoming with our stories, because others need to know. The next generation needs to know, because our stories are beautiful when you put it together. The resilience,
Yeah.
the amount of challenges, even with the language barriers, right? And we still have to forge through, even those of us who speak English, we still come back and it's like, what? You have an accent? Yes, we do. Right? But that is part of our story.
Mm. Yeah, you're absolutely, I think that the reason why it's very challenging to share, I don't think it's challenging to share stories in general, but I
Mm,
think it's very challenging to share immigrant stories because there's a big distinction, isn't it?
yeah.
Um, for those of us who've moved to other countries, you kind of understand, you just don't show up. and say, hey, I'm here. And then they go, yeah, we accept you. Join in. Here's this, and you can live here and you can work here, and everything is okay. There is a journey,
Mm,
getting legitimized, so to speak. I don't think there's really a lot of people who come in illegitimately. Even for those who seemingly come in illegitimately, they had a legitimate reason for wanting to
right.
uproot, and whether it's economic, family, whatever. Um, and the process of being legitimate in any country is very complicated. And
Right.
sometimes there is authorities involved. Sometimes the stories are not quite finished yet. People are still in the journey of that story,
Mm,
or that path. And so there is a little bit of fear
mm,
there, because we do things that sometimes to get legitimized are not necessarily, to borrow a word from our Jewish friends, kosher. Some of the things that we do, unfortunately, if you looked at it with a purely legal lens, you would say, oh my God.
right. Right.
But if you're looking at it from a human interest point, you would go, whoa,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that there is just a little fear there. Um, for some Africans, and I'm going to use the word some very loosely, some Africans also, unfortunately, we have been imbibed with a sense of superstition.
Mm,
Unfortunately, we think that sharing our stories is giving too much away. And for some reason, when we do that, whatever good fortune we may have stumbled into may
right.
stop working automatically. We view each other, unfortunately, with a little bit of suspicion. It takes a little more time to kind of work with each other, earn trust,
Interest.
earn trust, earn the right to be in a fold, to be able to get a story, especially an immigrant story, out of each other.
Right.
It is easier. I know, Vivian, the witches, oh, so that's why, even to travel, sometimes we don't tell a lot of people we're traveling
Mm-mm.
until it's
Mm-mm.
literally the day off. And then you
Yes.
go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I it meant to tell you, but we really didn't mean to tell them. It's just a
Mm,
way to be, because we're thinking there is another human being who has so much power that they can take away our good fortune. So it's
mm,
hard to share immigrant stories, admittedly. There are some communities that are doing way better than some. We have to give
right.
them that. When you go into Spanish communities, they are very forthcoming, and they just want to share with each other. And sometimes they even share with those of us who are not Spanish. Um,
Right.
I recently bumped into a group of Portuguese people, and they have classes with each other. They go into each other's homes so they can learn English together. They're sharing information here and there. I'm even helping some of them learn English,
Yeah.
in that way. So I think it's a cultural thing. It's also a religious thing. I don't want to call it a spiritual thing. It's a religious thing.
Yeah.
I think it was Mensa Otabel who he was teaching one time, and he posed a question. He says, who did this to Africans? Who did this to Africans? I mean, he proceeds to tell us who did it, but ultimately he's saying we did it to ourselves because
Right.
we listened without much research. So
Mm,
that's why it's difficult to share stories. There's legal parts, there's a spiritual part, there's a religious part,
mm,
and sometimes you just meet people who don't want to share stories, period.
good.
And they have no reason whatsoever. They just don't want to share. And that one is universal. It's not about where someone comes from. It's just people are people. So, yeah.
That's so, so, so true.
Yeah.
Because we've been working on this Fitting USA program. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is to help the immigrant story get better, right?
Yeah.
So coming in as a new person, being able to have the resources, the support that you need to be able to go along and then get settled, and actually from there be able to move on.
Mhm.
Because sometimes it takes so much time
Mhm.
without telling your story to
Yes.
figure it out.
Yes.
And
Oh
we're
God.
looking at how do we support you with transportation, because depending on who you're staying with, they may never tell you even where to go. And here you are, you're in a new country and you're stuck in the house. You're afraid to go out, but meanwhile, you even have your papers and everything. And
Mhm.
you can actually go out and start doing something with yourself.
Yeah.
And how about housing? That has been huge. Like, we have so many challenges about around housing, because that is one of the areas that a lot of the cities even don't have support
Mhm.
for immigrants or for new people. And we are working through it locally here in Lexington. We are working through that. And that also sometimes presents the abuse situation where you're
Right.
staying with someone, you cannot speak up, so now you have to tolerate everything and just not speak, you know? But how do we get to a place where we can, get ourselves to see the need or the opportunities out there for us,
Mm.
from wherever we came from, that this is a place that we can get resource, we can get help. We
Mhm.
don't have to just bundle everything up
And
and
be
waste all
quiet.
the time,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
first, can I just say kudos on Fit in USA. It is such a needed um, piece of the immigrant journey. It's what Fit in USA and Masterpiece is doing is literally being a mediator
Mm,
or being in the middle of someone's story. It's almost like when you are on a river or on a riverboat and you're getting off to the shore. There's normally somebody there who kind of helps you off of the boat
right.
so that your especially for African women, your clothes, your the wrapper is not all wet in the
Yes.
water, and
Yeah.
then they help you to the shore. I don't know if you see that image a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what Fit in the USA is doing, just helping people so they're not getting soaked in the water too much and
Mm,
they're safely getting on land. So really good job on that. When you go on the website, there's just so many avenues to access. To answer your question, I think that it's more of things like Fit in USA, but amplified. It's more talking.
mm,
It's more saying, listen, we're here to help. We're
mm,
not trying to take money from you. We actually want to give you information for free, and we want to point you in the right direction.
mm,
Unfortunately, a lot of immigrants, because of where they have come from, there's already a seed of a little bit of mistrust going on, right? Um, and to meet someone who just says, I just want to help you, sometimes it's very difficult to kind of understand.
right.
Um, and so the way to do it, I think, especially for a place like Fit in USA, is not to make it a regional help type thing. And forgive me, I think I'm going to mention some ethnic groups so that we can understand what I'm saying. Not to slight anybody or any region at all or continent at all. But a place like Fit in USA should be able to help someone from Iran
Mhm.
as well as help someone from Nigeria,
Right.
as well as help someone from Uzbekistan.
Absolutely.
There has to be an inclusivity of it so
Absolutely.
that it is rounded. And you're doing that so very well. I'm going to narrow it down to Africa because that's where we both are from.
Mm.
Even in Africa, it has to be so wide that we're not only just helping Ghanaians,
Oh,
just
yeah.
because the Ghanaians started it. We're helping South Africans and we're helping Ugandans and we're helping Kenyans and Senegalese and, all kinds of backgrounds from out of Africa. The more people hear it, it's just like social media. Most people don't jump on things very early on. The moment it blows up, they go, whoa,
Yeah.
So I think places like the UN and the Global Fund, they probably didn't have a lot of pull much when they started.
Yeah.
But suddenly when you hear, man, that person works at the UN, you go, oh my God. Why?
Mhm.
Because everybody in the world understands what the UN is. They know what the UN is about. They know what you can get from the UN, personally and on a global level. So
Mm.
it is a lot of work, but it has to be done where you're just constantly pulling people in. That's the way to overcome this bridge of
Oh,
why are people not willing to access? They're not willing to access because people are not telling their stories.
mm.
Because people kind of, it's like reviews. You don't buy a book if you don't see good reviews. You don't buy a
Mm.
shirt if you don't see good reviews. How do we get good reviews for platforms like Fit in USA and other platforms that are doing this type of work? A lot of reviews, a lot of people saying, when I came in, I didn't know how to access healthcare. And Fit in USA told me about charity care. And Fit in USA told me about this avenue. When I came in, I didn't know how to speak English. And Fit in USA got me a teacher to teach me how to speak English slowly and slowly. It then begins to build up. I think that's how it is. The other thing is essential conversations like this,
Mm.
and inculcating books, of course, like the Shimmigrant, like Letters of Hope to My Younger Self, like yeah, I'm very shamefully plugging it in there. Sorry, guys. Uh, like the other one by Margie March that I absolutely enjoyed reading. Same Elephants. You know,
Yeah.
it's books like that. It's conversations like that. The very last one I believe March did was
The race.
conversations.
Yeah. The
You
race
know, the
conversation. Yeah.
raised conversations. It's things like that, so we understand where we each are coming from. You
Mm.
know, so yeah, I think you have your work cut out for you, but I think it's a fun road you're on,
It is
and
fun.
you're doing an incredible job already. So
Thank
just more
you.
of that, more of us being open to share our stories and then just kind of projecting the stories consistently out there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zoe. You know, let's come back to one thing that you've learned in this journey to my younger self.
Mhm.
That you would say, you know what, if I was to go to a new place today, like America, these are some of the things I would say, hello, raise your hand and talk about it right off the, out the gate and make sure that you're getting help from it instead of trying to figure it out. What are some of your things that you would like to share
Oh, you mean about the immigrant stories?
about the immigrant story? If you were to redo it again, come to America, what are some of the things that by all means
Hmm.
you would say, I did it this way and I would have done it this way, or
You
I
know,
learned this way?
hmm. One, I would not be as myopic as I was. And let me explain that. I wasn't naive, but I
Mm,
wasn't educated enough, not in schoolwork. Because, yeah, no, let me tell you, I was smart, still am. But I wasn't educated in the different types of cultures I could tap into.
mm,
I wasn't open enough
you're not
because,
open.
unfortunately, when you come in, you're kind of put in a box
Yeah.
of, hey, this is where all the, well, I'm from Ghana, so this is no slight to Ghanaians. This is just my story. I just want it to be understood that way.
Right.
This is where all the Ghanaians hang out,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
then you go hang out with the Ghanaians. Reason being, it is just comfortable and it's
It is.
familiar, and you miss home food, and you want to see who has the Banku plug-in and who has the Tozafi plug-in, and so you're comfortable, you're
Yeah.
familiar. Um, what I would do different is I wouldn't take those experiences away from me. I would still hang out with my Ghanaian friends, but I would be more open to making friends from other cultures. And
Mm,
I would share my stories with those friends from other cultures, even if they don't understand it. Because half of the time, friends from other cultures, especially those who were originally born here or maybe their parents came in, and so by virtue of that, they already have their documentation all situated. Even if they don't understand it, I would still share.
Right.
That's one. One very good thing happened for me, and I think I would like to share that. When I first came in, yes, of course, your friends from other cultures, definitely. Be, I started, and this is very shameful. I only started making Caucasian friends maybe in the last 3 years.
Really?
Yes. And it's not because it was intentional, it wasn't. It's just wherever you went, it was just people that looked much like you. And
Mm,
it wasn't conscious. I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't something I was actively pursuing. Like, I'm not going to make friends from other cultures. It just happened that way because from jump, that's where you were put. And
right.
then life just kept happening. Unfortunately, those friends and acquaintances, some become really great help. A
Mm,
majority of them are already walking their own stories, which are very harsh on them already. They're not willing to share with you what they're going through either. So you are clueless, right?
right.
Um, my I have to give this person a lot of shout out, even though he may never hear it. But his name was Tusha Chavedi,
Mm,
an Indian immigrant person who was at our international students. He was the international student advisor in my college.
okay.
One of the first things he did, and I hope he's still doing it for every immigrant that came through his office, was one, make sure you got a job on campus. Even if it was 2 hours a week, he would plug you in to
Mm,
work the 2 hours. And with that 2 hours or wherever, I remember I worked with the media department on campus. All I did was kind of cart TVs to lecture halls and plug them in. And when they were done with their lectures, I would unplug it and take it back to the media place, media room. But he would use that to write a letter to the Social Security Administration. And he would say, this person works here and needs a number so they can get taxed.
wow.
Do you see? And then suddenly you have your Social Security number. That already is more than 30% halfway you're legitimized. All right.
Yes.
And so I'm always telling people who just come in, especially if you came in for school, look for your international students advisor, look for that office, go in there and say, I want to work on campus.
Mm,
Because it is very easy to roll that in to begin to start to legitimize you. And with that, I worked on campus for maybe 6 months. But with just that one document, you can literally go out there and start another job.
right.
And so I went out there and I found another job. Even though I was in college, I could only work 15 hours, but it was important. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how you get assimilated slowly. So that's one of the things I'm always telling people: get plugged in with your school. Don't stay within just your circles. Make friends from other cultures. I think that's very, very important. The other thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't be quiet so much.
Woo,
I
that-
wouldn't be quiet so much. I would tell people, listen, I am an immigrant. This is where I came from. This is what I am intending to do. And people want to help.
yeah.
Honestly, I think more than 80% of people you meet, actually more than 90, people are inherently good. They
Right.
want to help. Um, and they don't know how to help if you're not telling them your story. And most people, when they meet you, they're not immediately thinking, oh, she must need some help,
Right.
especially when you carry yourself like they do,
Of course.
like they do. So you have to find a way to kind of let your story be known very nicely and very gently, and ask for help.
Ask for help.
Just ask. And if they don't know, they can ask another person. And
Mm,
that's how you increase your network quotient, right?
yeah.
So those are the things I would do and not do. Yeah.
Amazing. That is really important. Like
Mm,
Dr. V, I see you. So Dr. V is saying other cultures share so much information. So build your village with other cultures. Like being
exactly.
open,
Yeah.
being open,
Yeah.
being open. That is something that really we need to work on. Being
Yes.
open. I,
Mhm.
I say that we claim we are not prejudiced, but I feel like
We
we
are.
are big time,
Yeah.
very much prejudiced as well,
Yeah.
right? We have to really work on our minds and really be open-minded
Yeah.
to embrace other cultures, to embrace other people, to
Mhm.
learn to trust as well,
Mhm.
the process. But
Yeah.
those are really
The other
important.
thing, sorry, not to cut you, but the other thing I would add is for those who have already walked the journey, be open to ask questions when people come in. It's
Yeah.
a two-way street because people are afraid, people don't know what they're doing. Just ask, how are you doing? And even if they're not asking you for help, and I have to give Dr. Viv a shout out. Dr. Vivian is one of those incredible people.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
big sharer of information.
Yes.
She doesn't care who you are or what you
Mm.
look like. You don't even have to ask her. The
She'll
moment
tell
you
you.
start, she knows where to go and how to help you. And she's always sharing information.
Mm.
She's walked her own journey. She's not done with her journey, but she's walked it up to a certain point and so can look back. So
Right.
for those of you or those of us who've gone to the other side, so to speak, just learn to share even
Mhm.
if the person is not asking you.
Right.
Because if they can't use it, one day they can use it for someone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is really good. That is a good thing to know because once we've established that, then we know that there are other ways that we can do things, the other things that maybe we have been doing now that is not serving us. And
Hmm.
I have to plug in this immigrant story that I have,
Hmm.
and we're going to take a few minutes to just watch it together. You're going to be seeing it. This is one friend or one person who gave us her story, and she's in Canada, and I have another story from someone from China and a few other
That's
places.
what
So
I'm talking
what we
about.
did is to say, hey, you have a story. We want to hear
Share.
it.
I
Share it.
love it.
So even as you're doing it now, if you have a story and you still want to share it, just go ahead and send it to us. You can text it, you can email it, whatever you want to do. But you have a story and we want it to be told. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's do that. And we are going to listen into this amazing story as we continue this conversation. All right, let's do it.
I learned how to network and I couldn't
Oh,
get a job till September 2022 when I landed a job that I love doing so much. There were so many issues that prevented me from landing a job. Some discrimination, racism, and the rest. But today, I just want to concentrate on things that I wasn't doing right. Things that after improving upon it, I was able to land a job.
Mm.
Some of the issues that I had and how I overcame them were job search, resume and cover letters, interview, Canadian work experiences and references, Canadian education and courses. With the job search, for over 20 years back in Ghana, I worked for the same company. So after landing my first job after secondary school, I never had to look for another job for all these 20 years. So I forgot the skills that is required to search for a job. Coming to Canada, being a vast land and not knowing companies, not knowing friends, working in certain companies that I would love to work with, it's so hard for me to connect with employers to get a job. What I did was I enrolled in some short courses that provide employment education services for newcomers. And this taught me how to apply for jobs on the company website. During one of those courses, I learned how to network on LinkedIn. I learned how to go for job fairs and how to connect with friends and families, employees. I learned how to go out of my comfort zones and then network.
Mhm.
One other issue that I had that prevented me from getting called for interviews was my resume. The formatting of my resume was not ideal for the Canadian job market. The length, the words, and also I failed to upload cover letters when required. The length of my resume was not less than 6 pages, which I have been uploading on the website for employers, and nobody have that time to be reading over. And also, as a professional working for over 20 years and being a nurse and an accountant and doing several roles, I have a lot of experiences. And when I am applying for a job, instead of me to tailor my experiences to the job requirements, I mix my nursing experience, accounting, and everything. I lump everything together and submit on the company website. So what I learned later was to build my resume up to 2 pages only, and also provide cover letters when required. I try to use the job ads, the words inside, the skill sets that is required, and tailor my resume towards those skill sets. Doing that helped me to start landing job interviews. But when I went for the interview, I tried to present myself to look very nervous. I felt that is a humble way of presenting myself so that the interviewers will have pity on me. But that is very, very unprofessional.
Zoe, do you want us to talk a bit about what she said so far, and then we can continue, because I feel like she's saying a lot of
A
great things
lot of
and
things.
practical things, you
Mm,
know? And
mm,
I'm so thankful for her for being so honest and even taking the time
open.
to
Yes.
lay it out this way, right? It is a great story. I mean, of course, it's so amazing. Like, you come to a new place and you have to learn. And
Mm,
sometimes, you know how we say you're too known? Sometimes I feel like we are too known. We feel like we know.
yes.
And so we just keep doing it our own way and we get frustrated. We are looking for these jobs,
Mm,
but you're piling it up with 10 pages of resume and nobody's
mm,
going to read it,
yeah.
right? Or you go to that interview and then you want them to have pity on you. Nobody cares.
But you see, it's a crossover of cultures, right?
Yes.
Um, and I have never. Well, I worked in Ghana a lot, but there were film gigs. Those are a little different.
Mm,
Those required that you showed what you could do and be, well, bold, really. But to, in her case, nursing, accounting, all that stuff, in Ghana, it almost feels as if when we go to look for a job, and I can only speak about the Ghanaian experience, we are literally begging the employer. So
mhm.
we have this, what we call humility, and really is not humility.
No.
It's not a good look. And I'm so glad she hit that nail very hard.
Yeah.
And so we're bringing our culture into a different culture. I like the way Jesus puts it in one of the Gospels, where he says, if you put new wine into an old skin,
Yeah,
it's
doesn't
going
work.
to do what? It's going to burst,
Yeah.
right? because the new skin is too potent. The new wine is too potent, and the skin around the old wine is, I mean, the skin around the old skin, wine skin is too matted. It's gonna burst.
Yeah.
Um, we have to be, and again, that's why Masterpiece and Fit in USA is very important. We have to learn. We when we come in, we're very eager to start. I think the best way, and if I had a do over, I would literally come in and take 2 or 3 weeks and just watch
Yeah.
and just watch the way people do it. I wouldn't even want to go for interviews right away if
Mm.
time would allow you, especially if you're a student. I would take time and make friends and say, how, like, when you go for an interview, what do you do?
Mm.
How do you present yourselves? Hey, here's my resume. Can you help me fix it? We
Yeah.
don't know how to do that. And I'm so glad that she hit the nail right there. Working as a volunteer, we're always thinking money, money,
Yeah.
money. Man, I just came here. Listen, if I'm not
Yeah.
making money right away, why should I volunteer and they won't give me money? But the mentality here, though, is that volunteering makes you look good.
Very good.
There's a spirit
Very
of
good.
altruism here that
Yeah.
makes volunteering very good.
Very good.
You
And
see?
honestly, this is a huge tip I can give to anyone. Being an HR person myself, having worked in this area for a minute, I
Yeah,
can tell you if you come to America, you go to a new place, a lot of people are not going to call your former boss in
no.
your previous home
Ghana
country and
or
try to figure out what
Nigeria.
you're saying is true. They give credibility to what they have, which is local. So
Yeah.
if you can find a local place to volunteer, I
Mhm.
mean, that is gold. And
Yeah.
that is something you can put on your resume right now and then, and that starts making you feel like you understand the culture. At least you understand a little bit. You're
Mhm.
working your way through it. Volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. If you're stuck even in a work that you're trying to transition to something else, find a volunteering position and
And
do it.
and
And do it.
I was recently telling a friend of mine, I got the other plug in, believe it or not, is church. Um,
Mm,
and that's part of my immigrant story.
mm.
Um, and I don't know why it always works out that way for me. Wherever I go, I just put in Google churches nearest me. I literally do that.
Yeah.
And 2 times back to back, when I've moved to a different place, I would go to the very first thing that comes up. I just walk into that church and never leave.
Wow.
The church family is so important because that's where the accountants go to worship. That's where the HR people go to worship. That's where the deans of studies goes to worship. Um, when you get into the church, please don't just be there going, I just came to worship and right after I'm just going to turn around and leave. No, volunteer in church. Believe it or not, putting that on your resume is very good. You know
Abs-
what I mean?
abs-
Many, many times I've gotten gigs because people say, wow, you are part of the media team in your church. And when they Google the church and they probably see the magnitude of whatever the church looks like and what needs to be done, and they say, wow, you use that software for church and you use, oh, yeah, 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 we do that. That's a plug-in right there.
yeah.
So I know for some cultures, we say that we don't like mixing with our own kinds. It doesn't matter what church you go to.
Yeah.
Just don't sit on your hands when you go to church.
Okay.
For those of you who are not church goers, whatever your religious inclinations are, don't just sit on your hands when you go to worship the God that you are worshiping.
Yeah.
Do something, be known. The way you carry yourself in church, out of church, in any environment really matters. If you're carrying yourself with confidence without arrogance, people stop and watch. And believe it or not, that also makes people want to ask you, hey, how are you doing? What's your name? And when they do that, don't just go, oh my God. Of course, Akosia is very right. So not just church, but I think for me that was my experience. I did a lot of volunteer work at church. It wasn't paid, but listen, every event I'll be there. People started when they see a camera and they don't see Zoe, they go, something is wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? Um, so be open. I have to say here though that for me it wasn't intentional. I wasn't doing it going, I want to be noticed. It was just something that I did. It's
Mhm.
part of me, so I just did it. But in hindsight, now I realize, oh, that's actually a good thing.
Right.
And
Right.
you're an HR person, so you will understand. So volunteer for places like Fit in USA, volunteer for people
Yeah.
like, for places like Masterpiece, to be a part of something in your community. Go to the Goodwill store and say, do you have free hours? I would just come and unpack some of your boxes for you at no charge.
Yeah.
Go to Salvation Army, go to
Yeah.
Red Cross, something.
Let's
Um,
do something.
just do
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
is that helps your community, that helps a group of people do something.
I
And
love it.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
let's finish her story as we wrap up. Let's finish
yeah.
that one.
During some of my courses, I learned how to be very confident, how to read about the company, research about the company before going. And I also learned a lot of other interview questions and how to answer them, which gave me that confidence. And learn how to let my interview flow like a conversation. Back home, sometimes when you are talking a lot about yourself, it's like you are just boasting. And that attitude, I brought it here, but here, they want to hear stories. They want to hear about your success. They want to hear about what you are passionate about. They want to hear about your future goals. So after I learned all those things, I started getting jobs. Another area of concern was my Canadian work experience. Canadians mostly value the work experience in Canada than whatever we brought from back home. All my 20 years work experience doesn't make any impact, though I have a lot of transferable skills that I can use and I have been using at the Canadian workplace. They don't trust those experiences that we put on paper once it's not under a Canadian company. So I started volunteering for institutions and also accepting the little jobs that when I put them together on my resume, it makes my resume more appealing to employers than all those Ministry of Health experiences that I put on my resume from Ghana. And by volunteering and working for those companies too, I got references from Canada. It's hard for them to call from outside to inquire about you. Sometimes maybe they don't trust the source of the information. I don't know. But they never called any of my outside or external employers. I also noticed that our education back home, they don't also value it so much. So I enrolled myself in the university and gotten my Bachelor of Business Administration in Accounting, and also try to attend so many courses. Putting all those things on my resume makes it more appealing to the employers than whatever I brought back from home. Getting a job as an immigrant, I improved my job search and networking. My current job, I found a job ad on my LinkedIn platform as instructor showed me to do, and I did it, and then the job ad just popped up and I followed up.
Well, Zoe, I'm going to pause this about LinkedIn. I know we are up on the top of the hour, but give us a few minutes. Today is one of the days
Yeah.
we go over. I told you we have Zoe in the house and we have some good stories to tell. LinkedIn. But because I mean, one of the things we offer through Fitting USA is making sure you build your LinkedIn profile.
Wow. Can I
If
plug in?
you
Can you help me? I need to build that.
you need to, you need
So
to,
yeah,
because
I
I
think
was
it
actually going
will.
to say that Zoe,
Mm.
at this point, you should have more than 1K people.
Look at that.
Yes.
Mm.
You know,
Well, I
it's
just joined like a month ago, but
I
yeah.
saw that. But you're already making waves, which is great, right? But a lot of people are done with, a master's program here in the US. They have a PhD, and you
Mm,
go on their LinkedIn profile and they have 25 people. I'm like, you're not serious. You're not. Right?
mm,
We have to work on that. It's really important. Your LinkedIn profile is very important than your Facebook and all these other places. Those
mm.
are other social media avenues, but where you are going with your profession, LinkedIn is a place
It's-
you want to carve out. You want to network, you want to make sure that you are showing up as you would at work with LinkedIn. So that is a plug that I want
Oh,
to
hold
put
up.
in.
I'm sorry. I think I'm just turning the tables on her right now. I think I'm gonna be an interviewer for a while. Did
Yeah.
you just say show up on LinkedIn as you show up at work?
Yes.
Someone needs to just kind of put that in the comment section.
Yeah.
It's so important, it's so poignant. That
Yes.
is wow.
Yeah.
I wow. Wow.
Yes. So LinkedIn is not like your other social media
God.
networks.
Yeah.
So you cannot just post anything on LinkedIn. Okay.
Mm,
You can post certain things on, Instagram and all
mm,
that. And that's fine. But you cannot post it on your professional,
no, you can't.
LinkedIn profile. The
Yeah.
people who post a lot of personal things have gained the trust on LinkedIn, and
Mhm.
they are in a certain category. So someone like Yawa Hans and Kwe is a good
And decide
example,
to go, hey, it's
right?
my birthday,
Yes.
and they
And
would
she
just
can
go
do that
there.
because
Yeah.
she's gained the trust of the
Hmm.
of the network that she's built. So
Hmm.
it's I don't do that yet. At least I don't
Hmm.
post my birthday on that yet. That is the thing. But LinkedIn is a critical piece if you want to go up, if you want to even network. Even with Masterpiece, LinkedIn has been such an instrumental place. When we are looking for someone for a grant, for a sponsorship, we go on LinkedIn, we
Mm,
network with them, we connect with them, we follow their page, we
mm,
we we like them, we follow the things they're saying. I have mentors on LinkedIn that I've never met in person. And
mm,
if I need something, I can reach out to them. We can have a Zoom conversation. This is where I'm struggling. What do you think? I
mm,
have people who have given me job links through LinkedIn. In
mm.
fact, there's so much you're missing out if you're not building your LinkedIn. So hear it well. If you want to show up, you want to make sure that your profession is going on a certain trajectory, you want to pay attention to your LinkedIn. I've given a few people on my Fitting USA project some projects to do, and I've told them they have to hit certain milestones of even the people they connect with, on LinkedIn. And there's a whole lot you can do. So if you're interested, just send us a request, and we'll work with you on that. But there's a way to network. You're like, how do I say it? I'll give you how to say it, what to say when you reach out to people,
Mm,
right? And you want to connect with people. There are ways to connect with people above you, below you, all on LinkedIn. And that is a great tool to have in your portfolio.
mm.
Okay.
Wow. Wow. And I don't even know what to say any longer. I mean, with that LinkedIn thing, it took a while. So I think what we're probably saying is yes, share your story, but
Yeah,
also take time out to literally um, do the work.
do that.
I like our storyteller on here today because you can see she just didn't sit on her laurels and go, "Oh my God." There is a place for that where you pray and lament and all that. We all do that. It doesn't even matter what religious proclivity you have.
Right.
We all ascribe to some kind of a higher being, and we do that. But whilst you're doing that, if you have to do that, do the work.
Do the work.
Do the work. Do the intentional, slow, painstaking work. And you can see
Oh,
she
yeah.
did it. You can see she had a long road to go. It probably took her a year or two, even,
Hmm.
to get to where she is now. but she was consistently doing it. One of my mentors, Rosemond Sapon Owen, she's always saying, Zoe, keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah.
Don't just be distracted by, oh my God, this and no, keep your eye on the ball. You know where you're going with your immigrant story. You know what kind of job you want to get at the end of the day. So keep your eye on the ball and keep working, chipping away daily the job fairs, the enrolling in universities, trying to find resources to cover that enrollment one
Mm,
way or another, the LinkedIn profiles, the networking, getting up out of bed and going to events. It's so important. Job fair events, cookouts sometimes, because you
right.
never know when you will meet the person that's able to give you the most needed information. So get yourself out there as many times as possible, not on social media, admittedly, but in your real life, do
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I agree.
yeah,
Well, yeah, up at the top of the hour, but we want to listen to
yeah.
the story to the
And
end
I
of
have
it.
one last story to share, but yes, let's go.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
And I
Okay.
got the job. LinkedIn is a very important platform for professionals. It helps you to put all your skill sets out there so that when an employer is looking for a job candidate, they'll be able to reach out to people who have those skills on the data in the database. I also try to educate myself and then attended those courses that increase my value on the Canadian market. Took many courses that taught me resume building, cover letters, job search, interview, Canadian work experiences, and a lot more. Putting it together and having all my education, work experience, volunteering experience on my resume, it helped me to land my current job that I love so much. And surprisingly, my current job is to help racialized immigrant women in Canada and in
Wow.
Regina to get a job. So when I'm talking to them and telling them all my experiences, it helps them to make an informed decision. My advice to everyone is do not give up. Identify your weaknesses and work on it. Read about the company you are migrating to. There are a lot of services out there that will help you get a job faster than what I went through. Volunteer your time and start by accepting opportunities that may come your way. That will help you build the experiences that the
Mhm.
employers are looking for. Also, do not concentrate on the discriminations out there, but concentrate on yourself. For the discriminations, they are a lot, but that will not help you. Build yourself, invest in yourself by utilizing the time that you have available, the financial resources, and encourage yourself. And at the end of the day, you will find it interesting that you get a job that you love. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I love her.
Thank you so much. You can connect with her on LinkedIn.
Yes, I
Link-
will. I really will. I think
yeah,
she's
she
doing
she she
important
is
content.
gold. She's gold. And I mean,
Wow.
everything she said, I was like, ding, that's it. Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
I
And
agree.
she knows how to build a story. I think for me, the last thing she said is so important.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get in fights that are not necessarily our fight.
Right.
Um, Discrimination is everywhere. I can tell you I've been discriminated against ever since I was probably born,
Right.
probably because of where I was from. You know,
Mm.
it's not a it's not a Western thing. It's a
Right.
global thing. It's a
Mhm.
world thing. There is tribal discrimination everywhere you go. There is ethnic discrimination everywhere you go. There are some people who don't give people jobs in Ghana or Nigeria or Kenya or Iran because of where they come from.
Right. Right.
Um,
Same country.
it's the same country. So I like when she says, don't bother so much about the discrimination, concentrate on yourself. One of
Yes.
our contributing storytellers on Letters of Hope to My Younger Self, he literally said something that stuck with me. He said, I don't give people responses, I give them results.
Oh.
And I think that being intentional about that is so important. When people are saying, Tina, what are you doing with your life? Yada, 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 all the stuff that's going to come at you. Why are you bothering with trying to give them responses?
Response.
Just work at it. Another one of our storytellers did his in poetry form. One of the poems he shared was the image of waking up. He called it something about grinding. That when you get to the top, everybody just kind of ascribes to you and says, "Oh my God,
Oh my God.
you've reached," but they don't know that to reach there has been a consistent waking up every day
Mm,
and chipping at it and grinding at it slowly in
mm,
the dark all the time.
all the time.
So don't worry about the discrimination. I think this is a very nice way to kind of segue into my last story. And then if you guys have time, and if not, we can do it
We
another.
have time. Let's go ahead for it.
Okay.
I am all ears.
So it's not really my story, but just kind of to give you an example of
Mm,
why it's important to share stories. One of my lecturers from the National Film and Television Institute, NAFTI, in Ghana, she had gained admission to do her PhD at, I believe it was Johns Hopkins University in Ronkonkoma, New York. And for her PhD, she was going to kind of try to document immigrant stories. So, of
mm,
course, this is a very big school. They have all the equipment, and so she enlisted me. We got cameras and equipment from the school. It was free. We got on trains. We were proper New Yorkers. We were. She was heavily pregnant, I remember, and we were just on trains and carrying lights. It was fun. We get to Manhattan, and let me tell you, if you want to meet a colorful, well mixed, it's like a bowl of salad
yeah.
group of immigrants, just go to Manhattan, go
Manhattan.
to 42nd Street, and you would immediately just be greeted with a burst of people from every country you can imagine in the world. So here we are, we're turning our cameras, and I'm holding this huge camera, and we're just pointing cameras at people and saying, "Hey, where are you from?" And then, "How did you get here? Can you tell me your immigrant story?" That was literally all we're doing. Now, the beautiful thing, or depending on how you look at it, the sad thing was that people from maybe our part of the world were not readily interested in being recorded, or even if we said, "Well, can you just tell us a story? We'll just record your voice," they would say no
Mm,
immediately. Sometimes even without knowing what
it
you were
is.
using the project
Yeah.
for. We were telling a lot of the people, this is just a school project. It's never going to be even, played anywhere. It's literally a school project. She's just going to submit it so she can get her PhD. And a majority of people who looked and talked and you knew maybe came from our part of the world did say no. A few were very excited and gave us stories, but very, very few, maybe four people. Everybody else that was on the street were from other cultures and other continents and all kinds of places. And they just went, yeah. And they would start telling you their story right away, which kind of tells you the importance of storytellers and storytelling, the immigrant storytelling, really. Because when you look at it, if we did a project and went back to all these people who were readily eager to tell their stories, I venture to guess the people that wanted to share their stories may have moved on a little more up or further away from where they were in their storyline than those that didn't want to share their stories. It's an educated guess because we didn't do that. But
Right.
I'm guessing that's what may have happened. If you're willing to speak up, people are willing to help you more,
Oh, yes.
So that's a story I thought I should share, just
Oh,
to
yes.
kind of give us the difference between those who like to share stories and those who don't like to share stories. And not for anything, storytelling is very cathartic.
It is.
Just sharing it to someone who may not even be able to help you helps you.
Right.
So please share your immigrant stories. Share them on Fit in USA. Share them on Masterpiece. Come to my younger self and share it.
I
And of course,
know.
share it on Margie Marge's show. Just share. Doesn't
No
matter
need
where.
to chat.
Share your
Yeah.
story. But definitely
Share.
Fit in USA. Please send in your videos.
Wow. Share your story. So, like we said at the beginning, we are doing this book for our book of the month, The Shimmigrants. And if you don't have a copy, if you want to share your story, because there's a story about a little girl
Mhm.
and I can't give it away. So you have to share your story, and I will share the story with you. Right? What about that? So we have a few copies that we are giving away. I want you to share your story, and I want you to get a copy of this book because then you will start to see how real that is and how the journey of an immigrant is really the journey of resilience, of hope. And that's why the hope and the letters of hope that is coming out also from Zoe and Abba is going to be, I mean, we have to find a placeholder for them on Masterpiece because we
Yes.
cannot let the lunch go by with us without us having them, here. But letters of hope to my younger self, because when we share these stories, what they are really letters of hope to our younger selves and to other younger selves as they watch us, right? And they're saying, if she did it, if Zoe was able to learn from that, then I don't even have to go through that. I can learn from Zoe now and I can do better. And I can go farther and faster. So we want you to share your story as we get going on this month, immigrant story. Next week we are having Maggie Madge come over, and I am so excited to sit with her as well as we
I
talk.
am so upset. I
I
really wish
know
she
it
was
should have
getting
been a
the
power
Margie
duo
March
thing.
sound. Yeah, like she's such a powerhouse. Marge, if you're watching or you get to watch this, Zoe absolutely adores you. I love
I
you.
know.
There's so many of you. If you would permit me, just so I can say thank you to a lot of them. Grace Works, I see
Yeah.
you. Gloria Mensa Darku, I see you. Dusted Amani, of course, Dr. Vivian, Akosia Asante. You all are just so incredible. Uh,
Incredible. Yeah.
what's her
Melanie
name?
said that I need
Akosia.
to show up on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Show up. And
And
Gloria
one
did.
of my dear friends, Sadinam, just joined. Sadi, you're very
Oh,
welcome.
Betty.
She has incredible stories to share too.
Oh,
And
wow.
Sadi works with law firms.
Really?
And she knows so much about setting up the immigrant that I feel like I should connect you to so you guys can do something. I probably have already, but if you haven't, you
Yeah,
guys should get together. She's doing incredible work, and
absolutely.
knows so much. So listen, lastly, I didn't tell Tina I would do this, but I'm a storyteller. I like to do this stuff. You want to win the book, The Shimmigrant, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead in the comment section? We're going to probably give you 2 minutes round. Go into the comment section and do something incredible. Tell us where you come from, where you are, where you're going.
Mm.
That in itself is an immigrant story. Just say, I'm from Ghana. I'm in the United States. I'm going to be the highest paid talk show host in the next
Wow.
5 years. Do
Whoop,
you see
whoop,
how I
whoop,
did that?
whoop.
I
Let's
want
do
you
that.
to do that. So 2 minutes is around. This is us breaking the cycle of not wanting to share our
Right.
stories. There's nothing wrong with people knowing where you come from. There's nothing wrong with people knowing where you are now. There's nothing wrong with people knowing what your dream is. In
There's
fact,
nothing wrong.
putting it out in the world allows the universe and God to help you achieve it. So I want to see them in the comment section. Let's engage, please. Let's do it.
All right. So we have a minute
A
and
minute.
it's on the clock.
Yes.
So we're waiting. Just share where you
Come
are
on.
watching
Don't
from.
disappoint me, please.
I know. So it's
One
like, really
person.
help me. Really help me. We need
One person. Just
you.
put it out
You
there.
know,
One person.
yeah. You want to tell us where you are, and you're coming from, where you are, and then what are your aspirations. And
Hmm.
so we just told you hers, right? She's from Ghana, she's in the US, and she's going to be, oh yes, Seti did come through.
There you go.
There
She
you go,
says,
Seti.
yes.
From Liberia and Ghana, and now in the US, and I'll be one of the top American filmmakers soon. Let's give
Yes.
it up for
Thank
you.
you.
Exciting.
See, I guess
Yes,
she wins a book. Do you see how that
yes,
works? Come on. One
yes.
last person,
One last
please.
person.
I see there's a lot of people watching, so
I
somebody put it
know.
out there. I have a
Someone.
permanent smile on my face now, but out of embarrassment because you're not typing. Stop. There we go.
Of course, you did it. She said, I'm from Ghana. I live in the United States. In the next 5 years, I want to form the biggest network of
Come
philanthropists.
on, a
Woo! I want to
philanthropist.
be on that list.
Yes, the universe will bring it to you.
Oh, so
She
he's
says,
saying, come
speak
on,
it
people,
into
speak
being.
it
Come
into
on.
being. That's what we want
Yes.
to do. We want to have the conversation right here. We want to have the stories going right here and
Yes.
telling our
Yes.
stories. Well,
I
thank
guess
you so
Akosia
much.
wins the book too. But guys,
I
this has been
know
fun,
it
an
has been
honor.
fun.
I'll
Thank you
defer
all.
back to the host.
Look at Zoe. This is what she does this so easily, and said he will connect because I need to get your address so that I can send you the book. Okay. But thank you, Zoe. Always a pleasure to have you. Love you. You know that.
Yes.
And to my younger self, if you haven't been watching it, you know what? You have to. It's just hashtag
MYS.
TYS. My younger,
TMYS. To
and you
my
will find
younger
you'll
self,
find it come up.
what's your story?
Oh yes. What
Yes.
is your story?
Every Tuesday
Immediately.
morning at 7:30 a.m.
That's it.
EST and 6:30 a.m. CST. If you're in Ghana, it's 11:30 a.m. GMT. And if you're in the UK or Nigeria or on the BST time, then it's normally 12:30. But when the time switches, just kind of do the calculations because we're global and stuff. So
That's it.
yeah.
That's it. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again. And thank you all for joining. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you so much. Don't forget to order,
I know.
pre-order, pre-order
Letters of
Letters of
hope.
Hope to my younger self
My
going
younger
live
self.
on Amazon later today. Thank you.
Bye.